Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you all to our second day of Water and Sanitation event. I would now request the chair, Mr. S.T. Devre, to please proceed with the session. And for that, I would like to call Professor M.G. Chandrakant, Mr. Raghava Neti, Ms. Jingming Huang, and Ms. Namita Vikas on the stage. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Our second day of this conference on water and sanitation in the run-up to the AIIB meeting in Mumbai next month. I presume some of the members of this conference, delegates, are still on their way, but we will still nonetheless begin now. It's already past 10:20. Yesterday, throughout the day, we heard from eminent experts about the whole issue of water and sanitation, its importance. Mr. Iyer, the Secretary, Water Resources from central government, gave his very eminent address, as well as the paper that he presented, I think puts before us the entire perspective about this whole issue. In the SDGs, which were adopted in 2015, water and sanitation has been accorded very high priority. It is number 6 in the list of the SDGs, and the responsibility of implementing the various commitments under the SDGs now rests with us. Niti Aayog is coordinating the SDG analysis, implementation, and in that RIS has been very closely associated, both at the stage when actually the SDGs were drafted and our draft was submitted to the UN, as well as later on in the follow-up on the SDGs. We have been holding consultations also across the country on this SDGs. With the AIIB, a new institution which has come up, RIS is again privileged to be a knowledge partner. In fact, we had held the curtain raiser meeting in Delhi in February prior to this annual meeting of the AIIB that will be held in the course of this month. So it is a matter of great privilege, happiness for RIS and personally for me. I have been associated with RIS for last several years, and we have been working on a number of issues relating to international economic issues, but which have also very close bearing on our domestic programs. And as we discuss water and sanitation, I think today's session relates to financial and regulatory issues on water and sanitation. We discussed various technical matters yesterday. How do we really go about in implementing the noble ideas about water and sanitation, which are a must for everyone, every society? In fact, I think the SDGs, and in respect of water and sanitation, they embody the human aspirations for something which is really equitable, which is necessary, and which has to be implemented in a time-bound manner. And in doing so, as we discuss today's our agenda, I can discern 3 aspects in that. One is our own domestic responsibility with respect to implementation of water and sanitation program. That is either central government or state government or private sector and so on. We have been doing so for many years. In fact, right from the time of India's independence, water and sanitation has been one of our key concerns, and all our 5-year plans had drawn extensively on water and sanitation. Since 2014, Swachh Bharat Mission has placed greater emphasis, accorded very high priority. Investment to the tune of $20 billion has been made into this, and both central governments and state governments have been involved in this now. There are some very good examples. I was just talking to some experts here, and I was told Telangana state has now decided to allocate 40,000 crores for supply of pipe water to the households in Telangana. I mean, that kind of very ambitious programs on water and sanitation are also being undertaken. And that kind of need, I think, we have felt all across the country. And we'll have to find both ideas, imagination, as well as finance to implement that. Besides our own domestic efforts and our financial arrangements, we have been approaching international institutions for decades now. The World Bank, as well as the AIIB or other banks, other institutions, IFC and others. And we are today very happy that we have the representatives of the World Bank, the AIIB. Now, besides these financial institutions, which have already been in existence for past several years, we have now new alternatives. I would say additions, such as the AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the New Development Bank, the BRICS Bank. And how are we going to tap our needs through these new financial institutions? I think that is something which we have to really consider and address, because these both institutions are at very elementary or at the infant stage, and really we have to flesh out the programs through our own ideas and proposals. And as a major stakeholder in the AIIB, India has a particular responsibility to come up with ideas and proposals. So I do hope that from our sessions on water and sanitation, we come up with ideas, not necessarily for the Mumbai meeting, which will probably discuss the broad contours of what the AIIB is about and what they are going to do. But I think we must come up with concrete proposals for AIIB and the New Development Bank in course of time. So without further ado, I would like to now call upon our distinguished speakers this morning. The first speaker is Professor M.G. Chandrakant, Director, Institute for Social and Economic Change, based in Bangalore. This is one of the institutions which he was telling me, Dr. V.K.R.V. Rao, one of the leading economists and thinkers of India, set up some decades ago, particularly with the idea of bringing about the social dimension to economics in India. And Professor Chandrakant, in his capacity as director, has led for last several years this institution with his very rich experience. He has both the experience of local as well as wider nationwide issues relating to water and sanitation, and may I therefore request you, sir, to please share your views and your ideas on this topic.
Namaste to all of you. Am I audible? Okay. When I saw the topic, water and sanitation, I thought I should share with you the other aspect of water and sanitation also. Because when you say water and sanitation, you always remember urban areas. But when you say irrigation, water and sanitation, you should remember rural areas also. Because more than 70% of the demand for water, whether it is for irrigation or for drinking purpose, is from rural areas. But of course, we are focusing more on urban areas. But I am also telling you what is happening in rural areas. Now, in rural areas, irrigation water is used for sanitation. Irrigation water is also used for drinking purposes. Drinking purpose mainly ends with sanitation. And 70 to 80% of this water is groundwater. So we are also faced with the problem of water quality and also water quantity. In many areas of Deccan Plateau, we have the fluoride problems and also saline water problems, be it rural or urban, because mostly we are depending on groundwater. The surface water is used largely in cities. Large cities, surface water is used, but groundwater is used in even peri-urban areas as well as in rural areas. Now, what I want to focus here is, because there is a issue of water pricing also in this session. Because of the frequency of failure of irrigation wells, and also change in the type of wells. Earlier we had open wells or dug wells. This has now become a museum piece. Now we have got bore wells or tube wells. And with the deepening of wells and farmers extracting water from deeper layers, the cost of extraction, not just necessarily energy cost, the cost of water extraction is increasing because of two reasons. One is that the probability of well failure is increasing. We estimated that the probability of well failure increased from say 0.4 in 1980s to 0.7 in 2010-2012. So because of the increase in the probability of well failure, the farmer is forced to, or any user of groundwater is forced to drill more than 2 or 3 wells. Okay, and when he is forced to drill more than 2 or 3 wells, if he wants to get one successful well, he has to drill 3 wells, of which 2 wells he has to spend on drilling and casing. And the cost of drilling and casing, which I call it as variable cost, forms about 70 to 80% of the cost of water. So the cost of well failure is more than cost of well success, because he has to spend from his pocket. So there are many in the group who say that the government is subsidizing for energy. According to our estimates, the energy cost forms the tip of the iceberg of the cost, maybe about 20 to 25% of the cost. But about 75 to 80% of the cost, the farmer is, the people in rural areas, they are paying from their pocket, which is not subsidized, which is not reimbursed. You'll be surprised to know that the Commission on Agricultural Costs and Prices, which gives the minimum support price to the farmers for about 27 crops, this does not have any methodology to cost for groundwater. It treats the cost of water as depreciation, which is a very small component, because when the farmer has to frequently invest on wells, the water cost becomes a variable cost and not a fixed cost. So fixed cost is becoming a variable cost. More of economics there. But I would like to say that the farmers are putting from their pocket about 70 to 80% of the cost, and we estimate that in the case of vegetables and other seasonal crops, this cost forms about 30% of the cost of cultivation. And in the case of perennial crops, this cost forms about 15% of the cost of cultivation. So prima facie, we will find that about 15 to 30% of the cost of cultivation of the crops is the cost of water, which the farmer is not getting either by way of MSP or by of any other measure. So though I am digressing from this water and sanitation to irrigation water and sanitation, there is a big scope for water discipline in irrigation, and therefore from disciplining irrigation water, you can get the water for drinking and sanitation purposes. Reason is more than 80% of the water goes for irrigation, and therefore if you have to discipline water use, it is more in agriculture and less in urban areas. So if you have to do that, then there should be massive investment on micro irrigation, drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, because farmers will not listen to you when you want them to change the cropping pattern. It's very difficult to convince them. Perhaps the easier way to convince them is to create awareness, water budgeting. We do not have water meters. I'm not telling put expensive water meters, but some way of some engineering technology, low-cost technology, which will give the farmer a way to know the water budget, how much I have extracted, how much I'm using, so that if he becomes aware, then I'm sure it's relatively easy to convince the farmers and to save substantial water for sanitation and for drinking purposes. Therefore, massive irrigation extension is very crucial. Extension means outreach, which we had during Green Revolution. In fact, 70 to 80% of the increase in the green revolution output or productivity was because of extension efforts and not because of genetics or fertilizer use or any pesticide use. So, but unfortunately in most of the states, the extension machinery has been withdrawn, maybe because ICT has come, television programs have come, etc. So it's crucial for us to look at extension efforts and then put back extension machinery to educate the farmers and then create an awareness regarding the whole gamut of water resource. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Chandrakant. I think what you have really pointed out is very significant, that there is a need for water discipline, and much of the work was done because of the extension services which have been withdrawn. I think this is a matter which really needs to be brought to the attention of the policymakers, and the costing of that or the financial aspect of the extension also will need to be gone into, because I think the costs are really overbearing. Then whether it is possible to really again reintroduce extension, I think these things we perhaps would need to really address. But what you said is true, that the 70 to 80% cost today is really borne by farmers and which is not subsidized. This is something which we are not aware of. And this is certainly going into the products which the farmer is bringing out, for which he is not really getting paid. Well, our next speaker is Mr. Raghava Neti. He is the Senior Water and Sanitation Specialist with the World Bank, and he is based in New Delhi. As I said earlier, World Bank has been one of the leading contributors to India's development story, and in practical every aspect of our development, World Bank has been closely associated. Several major projects, including dams and canals and transmission and all that, were also undertaken by World Bank. So how World Bank is going to really help us into financing of this water and sanitation is something which we would like to hear from Mr. Neti. So over to you, Mr. Neti.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me thank the organizers, RIS, Ministry of Finance, FICCI, and MAA to this event. It's a great opportunity to really share our thoughts on the water and sanitation, particularly the issue of financing and regulation. So I work in the unit called Water Global Practice, based in New Delhi office. I work on urban and rural water supply on sanitation project. And I am the team leader for the $1.5 billion Swachh Bharat mission support operation of the World Bank. And also in Maharashtra, I have a project called Program for Result for Rural Water Supply and Sanitation, wherein we will disburse the money only if the government achieves certain results. There are only 5 results that have been defined. $165 million will go based on the state's achievements of those results. So we are thinking differently rather than financing pipes and investment. We look at the results and then reward the states on that. So for today's discussion, I was asked to present on financing and regulation. I tried to present you the overall water-related challenges across the globe and what are the goals that we have for the water fraternity across the globe. Then what are the requirements to meet those goals and addressing the challenges. I made this presentation just to be focused on the specific issues so that everybody can recollect. And then I go over to financing and regulation, how they are related to all the 3 points that were raised earlier. First, challenges. See, this is the picture which shows the dire scenario of water availability across the globe. As you see, the countries in the red, they are going to face a lot of trouble with respect to water because demands are growing, the population is growing, and available water will not be sufficient to meet those demands by 2050. India is in the dark zone. Do you recollect, can you identify which is the place this belongs to? Sorry? No, there is something written on the tanker. NDMC, it is New Delhi. So I think this is the kind of situation. This is the situation that is there in some places, not everywhere. So this is another city, Shimla, again there in the northern side. The system was designed for 20,000 people, but now there is more than 2 lakh population and water is not available. Just 2 days back, there was an article related to water scarcity in the city. What's happening? Even the politicians are realizing the implications of climate change. See what the deputy mayor of the city said. Due to little snow and more rain, water is hardly retained in the short span. An overall resilient strategy is needed. See, awareness is reaching even to the politician. Therefore, for the development community, it is very important to bring the knowledge and resources to the citizen. Now, this is another picture, which is again showing the situation of water pollution, water resource pollution. This is again Yamuna River, which is getting spoiled. Now, when you look at the overall picture broadly across the globe, 2 in 5 people live in parts of the world which face this kind of water scarcity. 6% of the GDP of the world is being spent to meet the water scarcity needs. About 263 million people spend about more than half an hour to collect water. And particularly on the financing, which is our subject of interest today, the requirement is $114 billion per year, but what we are financing is about 14% of that, very minuscule. So this current financing is about $18 billion per year, which comes from public sources, private sources, and development finance institutions like AIIB and the World Bank. And now that AIIB and NDB are joining the fray, so hopefully financing will increase. This is only for water and sanitation. The shortfall for irrigation and water resources management is not included there. It will be even more. As you can see, the requirement is more than 6 times than what is available as of now. So we have to do something about it. Let's talk about it. What are the goals? Let's first of all understand. As you know, MDGs have been set. The 7th goal is related to water and sanitation. Overall, between 2000 and 2015, 91% of the population have got improved water source after MGD period, of which 4.2 billion population have received pipe water supply. This is improved water source. Hold on to that word. I'll come to that point separately. Again, improved sanitation is available for 2.1 billion population across the globe. 50% of the population has become ODF. But this is not enough. MDGs only say about improved water, improved sanitation. So what the development community did was to set another goal. This is SDG. The 6th goal is related to water. This has to be achieved between 2016 and 2030. It has moved from improved water supply and sanitation to universal and safely managed water supply and sanitation. Inclusive and quality and sustainable water services are important. So these two are very important for sustainability. So if you want to achieve this one, the requirement will be much more. And everybody has to work together in a coordinated manner. So let's keep that point in mind. So what is needed? World Bank has done some diagnostic work across 18 countries. So after the, it tried to assess what is the linkage between water and sanitation and poverty. There are 3 items which came out of this analysis. One is coordination. There needs to be better coordination between sectors. Not only water and sanitation, we shouldn't be limited only with respect to water and sanitation. We should also think of health impact, then maybe agriculture. We spoke in the morning as to how do we sustain the agriculture, etc. Then the second point is targeting. The investments have to be better targeted. As you know, most of the investments will go for capital investment. Nobody bothers about O&M. So it is very important to also focus on O&M. Therefore, sustainability increases and the future requirement for funding will come down. The third one is about governance, which is very important topic for us today. Governance has to improve as to how you look at the needs of the people, where do you put money, and then how do you monitor that, how do you coordinate with others. All these are important. Social environmental issues, which are also important from your organization perspective, this is also very important to focus on all these areas. So financing and regulation, the topic that we discussed today, will cut across all these three areas. Now let's talk about financing. Remember that big picture, a small circle and big circle. The financing comes from three sources. Public is the generally adopted source, which is historic, but the amount of money available through public sources has been limited. We spoke about financing, even the Secretary, Mr. Iyer, has written an article about funding available from public sources. That is not enough. We called S-Bank today to discuss about commercial sources of financing in the sector, which is also important. Concessional financing is the one which comes from the development financing institutions like the bank and AIIB, World Bank and AIIB. But this is also not enough. As you can see from the graph, in 2014, only $15 billion of investment has come from these concessional finance sources, which is not enough. Where is 114 billion? Where is 15 billion? And therefore, we need to increase exponentially commercial finance. So unfortunately, so far, water has attracted only 4% of the commercial financing across the globe. Only 4.1 billion has come from these sources. The transport and energy are the sectors which have attracted most of the commercial finance. So what can be done? We spoke about improving governance, which will then improve credit worthiness, and therefore the commercial banks will be able to put in their money. But commercial banks need some kind of assurance. We were speaking in the morning. You need some kind of guarantee or credit enhancement mechanism so that you'll be able to put in money. So that, therefore, the development financing institutions' presence will help that happen, leveraging capital. Allocate resources more effectively so that where to put the limited resources, which are the areas that need to be understood. And then capital planning. We spoke in the morning about the capital planning. If groundwater is available, how do you really use it? Whether we would supply equipment or what kind of subsidy we do, those are the other things. So this graph broadly shows how it helps in improving governance. As you go towards the right, presently it is about 15% of the utilities are financially viable, but when you take the measures like reducing NRW, etc., how the creditworthiness and financial viability of the utilities will improve, this graph shows that. In terms of private finance, most of the finance will be in different forms. Like for small interventions, it will be microfinance. Vendor or supplier finance will be the one that will be available at the medium level. Like in Swachh Bharat, suppliers can be supported to provide equipment and then even toilets, etc., toilet seats, etc. So that could be one source. And then when it comes to large investment, it will be commercial bank loans or DFIs, or even in some cases, bonds can be given by the urban local bodies. In fact, I work in one project in Tamil Nadu, where the Tamil Nadu government has given bonds for the water supply and sanitation also. But with respect to issues of private finance, the issues are the tenor is short, probably is for the banks, and return on investment is likely to be low. There can be legal restrictions, and then demand from households is likely to be low. Therefore, some aggregation has to happen so that the demand will be more. And then the market situation has to be improved through some kind of regulations and then rules being in place. Therefore, the suggestion from the bank side after assessment is go for blended finance, wherein the World Bank can come. In fact, we have a sister institution called MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Authority, which would, in fact, guarantee the credit. It addresses the risk like political risk, etc., so that the private funding can come in. There are various forms of this kind of blending, mix of instruments that can be used, capital subsidies and partial credit guarantees, tenor extensions, etc. So this is the further detail. Let me not go into detail. Then in terms of sustainability, this is the graph which shows, suppose on the left side, the blue one is the cost that are required for CapEx, operation, and then also financing, wherein the present collection is for that level. This is the funding gap. Okay? This comes from taxes, tariffs, and then, of course, concessional finance from the World Bank, etc. As you go forward, if you reduce the cost, we spoke in the morning, then the needs will come down. If you raise the tariff, then again, the financing gap will reduce. If you mobilize private financing, what happens is it promotes the efficiency in the sector because private financiers will ask for that thing. Therefore, in the long term, sustainability can be achieved. Okay? So, if you achieve sustainability, there is scope for tariff increment, and therefore, it is a vicious cycle. You would have understood from earlier discussions how tariff sustainability, revenue recovery, if it is not meeting the requirements, how the whole service level will go down. So by doing this, we will go in the reverse direction, where we will try to promote the sustainability of the sector. Then on the regulation, simply stated, it involves setting up rules and then enforcing those rules. Why? It requires some regulation for financial sustainability, performance management, enhancing accountability and transparency, and also proper regulation so that everybody gets services. These are the 4 primary areas of regulation. But it comes in various forms. Let's look at how it happened in different countries. Colombia and Peru, they have a dedicated regulatory authority which does that job. Then this is Burkina Faso, regulation by contract. In the contract, regulatory measures are specified and then they are enforced. Uruguay, multi-sector regulation is there because there are regulations for, say, transport, then telecom, etc. Water is also added there because of cost cutting and also economics of scale. Now, what is this? Mozambique, there is a decentralized regulatory arrangement wherein it becomes efficient to deal with local issues. Then in Cambodia, self-regulation by water supply authorities is there. Then in Switzerland and Brazil, it is done through a corporation, corporatized entities and commercialization. This is how it is done. But in India, we still have to evolve the market to be able to do this in a very better manner. At least in the World Bank project, we never handled any regulation for the water supply and sanitation so far, though we are supporting for monitoring the services and then strengthening capacity of institutions, etc. So let me quickly go over to the main features. Any regulatory authority, it has to have these kinds of features. Cost effectiveness, transparency, predictability, because anybody who wants to put in money, they want to know what is going to happen in future. And fairness, decision autonomy, etc. Linkage with the political economy is also very important. And whatever you do, it has to be done in a consultative manner so that it will be very much accepted. So how do you go about it? You identify reform, assess the institutional environment, which are the institutions that are doing, and then assess the political economy, and then who is actually planning that, which secretary is doing that, whether the ministry is driving that, etc. Try to understand that and look at their needs and the needs of the sector and then design something which is fit for the purpose. It's not enough to design something. It is also important to build capacity for that unit. So this is all a broad level analysis of the financing and regulation system for the water supply and sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Neti. I think you very aptly identified 3 elements. One is coordination, another is governance, third is social environment to meet the challenges. The challenge of the deficit of what we have and what we require. And as you mentioned, it is 6 times, which is a huge, huge gap. Now, with regard to governance, my own observation or question to you is, how do you achieve that governance in a democratic polity? Do you have a national consensus on this issue? Although broadly everybody agrees with it, though in terms of attaching priority or allocation of resources, there will be varying views. And therefore, governance by itself doesn't really work. You know, on paper it is fine, but I think when it comes to really brass tacks, it does not always achieve the results. And I think what you said about blended finance, that is, I think, perhaps a solution, because the private finance has to supplement public finance. And on both sides there is shortage. So we'll have to really come up with imaginative ideas about blended finance. Regulation, I was just reading this paper of Mr. Iyer, and if I find that if the Reserve Bank of India is now evolving in this area, new credit policy, and asking, to include wash sector for credit, I think that's a good regulation. Also, I think it has also included toilet construction in this for credit. So I think we ourselves have the means to do that if we can be more sensitive to our own requirements. I think that is how I think the regulation also had to be worked out. Anyway, thank you very much. We have our next speaker, Madame Jiangmin Huang. She is the Principal Urban Development Specialist, Urban Development and Water Division, ADB. She addressed us yesterday also. She has a very long experience in the field of urban planning and also has been working on projects which have also required operational experience. So please share that. I think ADB, as we all said yesterday, with regard to the concessional financing, has been a great help to India. And ADB projects are today in operation all across the country, not only in water and finance, but in several other areas. So as a leading developmental finance institution in Asia, when another Asian institute coming, AIIB and the NDB, how ADB will be now functioning or coordinating its policies is something which we would like to know from you. Over to you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Devel. Hello, good morning. Happy to see you again to talk about. Thank you. Hi, hello. Happy to see you again to talk about the financing and regulation this morning. In fact, Mr. Devel has given a very good question to us. Now, there are more players in the market. AIIB, also the new BRIC bank. For us, we think it's really good because, in fact, that's a huge market. As I said yesterday, the whole investment needed for infrastructure is a huge amount. And ADB's investment is just tiny. Our data showed that ADB's investment in 2017 was only about 2.5% of all the infrastructure investment put in the whole Asia across the different countries. But if we take out China and India, ADB's share of the investment for infrastructure would be increased to 10%. So you can see that the major infrastructure investment, in fact, is in China and India. So, it's more than welcome to have other banks because the market is huge, and then it's also good for us also to share and then learn from each other. It's better to have more players in the market to really create more competitiveness and also provide choices for the countries. They can have better choice. And this morning about the topic, financing and regulatory issues, I want to mention maybe basically three things. I think my colleague, Mr. Natty from World Bank, has given a very good big picture of the whole financing and the regulatory issues. And from my side, what I really want to say is about this water pricing. Because for all the financing and the investment, the key thing is to find bankable projects. That means that the project should provide proper benefit and return in the long term. And then for water and sanitation, the key thing is how you can get long-term sustainable return. Of course, we always say that water tariff, but in fact, from ADB side, specifically based on our different experience in different countries, there should not be only one solution. And for us, we promote 3 T's, as I had the interview with the newspaper yesterday, and then also in the newspaper, I have mentioned this already. The 3 T's, the first is tariff, and the second is tax. And then the third is budget transfer. That means the budget transferred from the central government or state government to the local government. So whatever, whichever one of these 3 T's works, then we can see, we can make this project as a bankable project. By this way, to secure the return of the project, we can delink the proper delivery, the delivery of a proper water service, and the fees, or the return of the project. Because otherwise, if we really link the proper service, water service, and the income, if there's no tariff, if there's no income, then this project is not sustainable. We have seen so many, because in fact, the Indian government has made such a very strong decision to provide water service. So much capital investment has been done. You can go, even very remote areas, I can see pipes on the ground, but many of them don't work because of lack of financing, lack of sustainability fund. So if we can really, secure one of these 3 T's, tax, tariff, and budget transfer, to make the sustainable supporting of the proper water delivery, then, this is a bankable project. So this is my first point. We need to delink the delivery of proper water service and the return of the project to make a bankable project. And then the second I want to say is, but from a long term, of course, among the 3 T's, tax, tariff, and budget transfer, tariff is the best way. Because only we build a proper tariff system, people would realize that water, in fact, is a very, very precious thing. Water is free, but as we always say, piped water is not free, because pipe is not free. Yeah? Water, yeah, free. You can get water from the river, that's free. From the lake is free, but piped water is not free. So long term, only we need to, build up a proper water tariff system would help to really build a very long-term and sustainable water project. But of course, based on that, the meter, is a very important thing. And of course, only with meter you can do non-revenue water management. Otherwise, how can you know how much water people have received? So these 2 things, of this water pricing, delink the water supply service and the water charge. The second, long-term water tariff is a must for a very good and sustainable, and also good for the water resource conservation. So water tariff is a long-term issue, but it's a must. And then the second thing I really want to talk about is about the financing sanitation and also microfinancing, sorry. I didn't notice I moved this away a little bit. And for this part, in fact, the key thing for AIIB, we really pay a lot of attention to see how we can promote the private sector involvement in the sanitation. For this specific thing, what now we pay attention is, we all know that at the moment, many cities, specifically small towns, they are covered by sanitation, but mainly the septic tanks, not the centralized wastewater treatment plant. In fact, the septic tanks would completely work okay for low density towns. If the population is less than 1,000, 2,000 per person per square meter, then the septic tanks would work very, very well, because the piped system for sewage collection is very, very high cost, and it takes very long time for you to achieve the benefit. So the sanitation of a septic tank would work okay, but then the key thing is what is an efficient way to really manage the septic tanks? AIIB, together with the Gates Foundation, we work really hard to promote a proper maintenance and also regulation of the septic tanks management. But we find that, in fact, in many small towns, there is some private sector, very small private operators. They are doing the emptying of their septic tanks. But the thing is, they are not really well regulated. And also, their payment side, their how to discharge their septage from the septic tanks, there's no regulation. And so in this point is, for ADB side, we don't want to invest in this part because there is private sector already. The key thing is how to regulate them to make them a proper regular sector, and also to make the whole operation a standard operation. So from this point, Gates Foundation and ADB were working on that to try to find some standard operation approaches, and also to set up some pilot projects to really promote a proper septage management. This is the second point, how to make these small private sector operators for septage management into a regulated, a proper sector. Because this is a key thing for us to, to go to 100% sanitation coverage. And then, just to expand it a little bit, to make it expanded a little bit, what I want to say that financing on water supply and sanitation, wastewater, in fact, should not be only limited by wastewater and water supply. In fact, we always mention two nexuses. In fact, the first nexus is water nexus. Maybe you have all heard about that's water, energy, and food. Because they are linked to each other so much, We heard the professor from Indo talking about the irrigation, how much underground water is used for irrigation. Because the energy is free, they use more. So this water, energy, and food is quite complicated. But the other hand, there's another axis, is the wastewater nexus. That means that the wastewater, solid waste, and flooding, in fact, they are connected. Because in many towns, cities and towns, if you have, really seen, the leading issue is the solid waste. Because there's no proper solid waste collection system, people just dump their solid waste everywhere, specifically to the rivers, to the lakes, and then this solid waste block the rivers, pollute the water resource, and also they also block all the urban drains in the urban area. So in these circumstances, investment in wastewater or water supply is not enough. The key thing is we need also to consider the investment in the solid waste management. As soon as we can do a proper solid waste management, the pollution side, it can reduce at least, in some circumstances, 30% of the pollution. It comes from the solid waste. Specifically, during the raining season, we have this annual monsoon. You can imagine, the heavy rain would really bring how much pollution from the solid waste into the rivers, into the water bodies. So this is the third point I want to say, that the nexus of the solid waste, wastewater, and the flood. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Jingmin. I think you have touched upon three very crucial points. First point which you made is that these should be bankable projects. I agree that unless these projects are bankable, they will not be self-sustaining, and they will remain only on paper. And the long term, you suggested it should be tariff-related. I was wondering, has ADB thought of, or is ADB, I'm not aware of, ADB already engaged in a pilot project in India or in any of the Asian countries on this tariff-related measure, and where what you said is water is free, but pipe water is not free, you require meters, all that. But has it really been started anywhere? Because I think if ADB were to undertake a pilot project, it will come as an example for us. I don't think people in India will be averse to the idea of having this kind of scheme, because when you have electricity measured, metered, why not water? And I think today that awareness is growing in India and elsewhere in the world that water is a very rich and valuable resource. It cannot be just wasted. But I don't think we have enough really means. Yesterday a point was made that while your meters only talk of flow, It doesn't talk of pressure, doesn't talk of temperature, doesn't talk of the pollution or the biological, all these, again, we are way, way behind. Maybe it will take several years before we have meters which really measure other things also. I think let an institution like AIIB come up with a pilot project in any part of India which will, I think, show how tariff can become the main element in this, how meters can be, and how this kind of thing can be sustained. You also talk about the septic tanks. I think we have Mr. Pathak here who has done experience, he has worked on this for the last 50 years. And this is very important because in most rural areas or even urban areas, we do not have the sewage system. We don't have enough water. We rely on septic tanks for the sewage management. Again, there is no regulation. Now, you mentioned some, pilot project with Case Foundation or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think let us, you might circulate about this, or let more and more people know about this kind of project, because this is really a necessity. We don't know enough about this. So thank you very much. I think AIIB's contribution, as I said earlier also, has been very valuable. And if you are investing 10% of India's infrastructure needs, it's huge. Huh?
Only 2%.
2%
in India and China.
India and China.
We don't include India and China. AIIB's percent increased to 10%.
10%, okay, all right,
Because
okay.
all other small countries.
I know, yeah, realize, okay, all right. Our fourth speaker is Madam Namita Vikas. She is the Group President and Global Head, Climate Strategy and Responsible Banking in Yes Bank. Yes, I think since yesterday I've been hearing the involvement or the need for association of private sector in this whole water and sanitation business. And therefore, I'm very happy that you are going to share your views. I think already corporates are using their CSR funds for this. And corporates, yesterday, Mr. Lakhani from Nagpur, I think he spoke of his experience, how corporate sector is working in the Nagpur city with the municipal corporation there in improving water security in the city of Nagpur. So please, thank you. Please, please.
Thank you very much, and it is indeed a pleasure to be here on behalf of Yes Bank. While I'm going to speak about the role of the private sector, as I have been told to, on the challenges and opportunities that the private sector faces when it looks at water as a sector. So, sir, more than the 2%, I would like to also focus on the 98% of the role of the private sector. So 2% is the CSR commitment, which I will speak about. But I think what is important is to focus on the 98%. So while my colleagues here have given a very elaborate description of what the role of finance is, I would like to just start with some key data points here, where India ranks 133 out of 180 nations for its water availability, and 120th out of 122 nations for its water quality. So very rightfully, while the meters just talk about the flow, it's important to also talk about the water quality. And it has been evaluated that about 80% of India's surface is polluted, which results in India losing $6 billion every year due to water-related diseases. So there's a huge financial implication that we see. There are challenges like increase in water consumption, waste in urban areas, increase in irrigation, agriculture demand, and all this industrial growth, lack of technologies, the new technologies, regulatory and policy interventions. I think all this bundles up to a greater need of what really commercial finance can do and what commercial finance can really bring to the table. It is estimated that the water and sanitation sector as a whole, an investment of $199 billion annually is required. And as commercial banks always look for ROI, every $1 that is invested in the water sector, there is a return of $3 to $4 as an ROI. So naturally, there is a business case as to why this sector needs to be entered into. Having said that, The financial sector has been playing a key role in bringing out certain innovative financial mechanisms, but ultimately bankability and for sustainable models to work, efficient execution with clear accountability and outcome-based approach with all parties, active participation is very much required. So there's regulators, there's policy makers, then there is the financial institutions, and then there are the users as well as the deliverers of water. I think all of that really bundles up together. And here I would, I was hearing Mr. Neti speak about the 4% contribution of the commercial financial institutions into water worldwide. I was trying to find out what's the number for India, but I was unable to. I think it's minuscule. And that's because of the perceived high risks. So if you look at some of these sectors which fall under the Sustainable Development Goals, the understanding of sectoral risks for financial institutions is very, very important, because then the risks are mitigated and that's how projects become bankable. So while risks in certain sectors like renewable energy today are very well understood, and that's why we've seen over the last 3-4 years, there's good amount of capital that has moved to renewable energy. There is a lack of in-depth understanding of risks in sectors like water. So the knowledge about the supply chain, technologies, the overall production or overall mechanism of how this works, I think those risks are really to be understood, and that is at a nascent stage within the banking sector, and that is one of the reasons why that's not a natural option to go and invest into a sector where the risks are not understood. Another area is policy uncertainties, which affect the cash flows of utilities and borrowers, and in turn it affects their debt serviceability. So banks would always look at receivables, right? So because of these policy uncertainties, variations in pricing, or pricing I know is a big issue, and these things bring about these uncertainties where banks hinder. Weak balance sheets of urban local bodies result in revenue risks to the financiers. So the financiers would look at the balance sheets of the borrowers, and that becomes a major factor that also what contributes to this is the weak balance sheet is the inefficiencies in the revenue collection. So there are these kind of issues that surround these projects. Another area is project execution delays, which includes approvals of right of way, inaccessibility of old piping infrastructure, which some of my colleagues spoke here. So these are some challenges with financial institutions face, and then coming to the size and the tenor of the projects. So at times projects are too small to attract individual investments. For example, STPs or microfinancing for sanitation. Financial institutions normally look at short-term projects in the range of 5 to 7 years. However, in case of water and sanitation, project tenors tend to be long, over 10 to 15 years, and this entails high upfront costs, making the sector unattractive to financiers who are looking for high ROI in the short term. Now, in order to channelize capital, at one level, of course, policy reforms is required, and while there is a carve-out of microfinance where toilets can be financed through the priority sector lending of banks, a good policy from the RBI would always be useful to facilitate in a big way. And this is very similar to what happened to the renewable energy sector. It really boomed on the back of a strong commitment by the government of generating 175 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2020, coupled with favorable policies. I think that was a big boost, like certain tax exemptions that were given to lending into infrastructure sector. And this really gave birth to green bonds in India. Until then, there was no green bond market in India. Yes Bank was the first to issue India's first green bond in February 2015, and it was a 160 million USD issuance, post which we did a very interesting innovative issuance with IFC, the private sector investment arm of World Bank, and this was where IFC went to the London Stock Exchange and issued a rupee denominated bond. Using its AAA rating, it got capital from mainstream investors and plowed that back into an emerging country and invested in the Yes Bank's second green bond. So it was a very innovative way of this green bond issuance. Today there are 23 issuances in the country, and the market from zero in 2025 stands at about 6.3 billion USD. I think that's a good traction. SEBI regulation is there on the use of proceeds, which helps measure and monitor how the capital is flowing into the renewable energy sector. This is really a base for the blue bonds now, where the water sector can really take, the policymakers can take a cue from how the renewable energy sector has grown into certain targets that are given to maybe financial institutions to look at water as a sector, water and sanitation as a sector, and that will really give birth to the blue bonds, which we are also looking to issue, which will establish the effectiveness of financial instruments to infuse capital into water infrastructure projects to start with. I would like to move to a couple of other models that we have done. So while, sir, we said that there are, we have to imagine what can be done, but I would like to share a couple of models that we have done here. And, PPP models are fast emerging as viable options for creating bankable water infrastructure projects, and this has enormous potential from a replicability perspective. So Yes Bank very recently entered into a tripartite agreement and committed 156 crores to fund the first sewage treatment plant of 50 MLD to be constructed at Varanasi under a hybrid annuity PPP model. The bank has signed a deal with a private infrastructure projects company, and the STP will be constructed under the Namami Gange project, which is the overall budget is INR 20,000 crores. The project would ensure that no untreated wastewater goes into the river Ganga. As per this model, 40% of the capital cost quoted would be paid on completion of construction, while the remaining 60% of the cost will be paid over the life of the project as annuities, along with operations and maintenance costs expenses. And the most important feature of this model or this overall project bundling is that both the annuity and the OEM payments, that's the operational and maintenance costs, are linked to the performance of the STPs. This will also ensure continuous performance of the assets created due to better accountability, ownership, and optimal overall leveraging the optimal performance. So I think and this is very replicable. So these are the kind of models that we need to replicate, and that's how private finance is really going to move in. Another area is credit enhancements, and very rightly said by my colleagues here that commercial finance would need credit enhancements, and that is a new emerging role really of MDBs or DFIs. And here I would like to cite a very interesting project that we undertook in the run of Kutch. So just imagine this is real, but you may imagine this. 48,000 women work in the heat of 52 degrees in the run of Kutch between September and April to make salt. So they are salt pan farmers, and they work in very, very laborious and destitute conditions there. They have no access to formal credit, and therefore they borrow from moneylenders there locally at anywhere between 36 to 100% rate of interest. So in other words, they work as bonded labor for these moneylenders and make salt. We looked at this entire model, and we saw that the major input cost, why did they have to borrow, was to run diesel pumps to draw the brine from the ground to throw the water around and make salt, right? So we said, how about looking at moving them from diesel pumps to solar pumps, and on the back of mainstream finance, not 2% CSR, but on the back of the 98%, because then those models really become sustainable. So we worked with a local bank to give them loans. We took a group of 600 women as a pilot, and we started this facility where Yes Bank provided the credit enhancement to the local bank, a local small commercial bank. We did an interest subvention because the local bank commercial rates were 13%. We did an interest subvention of 8%, and we created another small grant to help them maintain those pumps and build capacities, make them learn, so on and so forth. So one is huge environment contribution, but besides that, I think what is very important is the income levels of the women have gone up from 25,000. So they would only make about 25,000 over 7 months of hard, rigorous labor, has gone to 72,000 in the first year. So that's, I think, one of the biggest achievements from a livelihood standpoint. And this model is replicable across 48,000, and we are talking to IFC and FMO, the Dutch Development Bank, to come in with the credit enhancement so Yes Bank can do this funding for women to start with. So it may not be really water, but this can be replicated in the water sector. So these are the kind of innovative models that can be created under credit enhancement. And my third and last point is leveraging the capital markets. I think that is very, very important, because what happens is lending to smaller projects, small water infrastructure projects is very, very difficult. But if you aggregate it and if you bundle this whole thing together and then hive it off to the capital market, then there is an opportunity to raise finance from the capital market. This really provides an apt funding alternative to microfinance institutions also that micro-lend for sanitation projects. So we are looking at a green asset-backed securitization project which we are to launch in the next 3 months to look at how WASH can be really financed. So in conclusion, I would say that water and sanitation is at a classic inflection point, and the key is to, most inevitable expansion will come from the commercial banks and the private finance participating in this with public and concessional finance. Blended finance is a great way to look at models. So the salt pan farmers is a blended finance classic model that we created. And I think partnerships is going to be the key here, with the government playing its role in terms of policies, the regulators and MDBs, DFIs and banks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Vikas. I think you brought out a number of very interesting points. The first one, that the risks in this sector, water, need to be well understood. I think I fully agree with you. We seem to take water for granted, and therefore we have not really understood the risks, be it supply chain, technology, and various things which you mentioned. I think this is really first step in understanding this whole water business. Secondly, you gave the example of renewable energy and how that sector has boomed on the back of finance. New ideas about finance, and the green bond idea how they were issued. Similarly, I think what we need is now the blue bonds for water. The example about Kutch, I think, is really remarkable. The credit enhancement by private banks and private institution is therefore really very essential. And you can see examples like this, how they can benefit common people without any loss to the financial institutions. In fact, both seem to win in this. So, in addition, leveraging of capital market, that will again go a long way. So there are a number of ideas which have really come up in the course of the excellent presentations by our 4 speakers. I would like to now have the floor open for any questions, observations. I would request the questioner to be brief and just identify himself or herself. Yes, please.
My question to both the AIIB World Bank and also to the banking financing aid. Hello. I have worked on several World Bank projects on all the 3 aspects. That's technical, finance, and manpower and training development. Also the diagnostic analysis in the way of project completion report, the post-project. Now, one of the things which I have found in all the funded projects is that when you decide a line of credit, that time there are 3 types of agreement, particularly in case of the World Bank. Maybe it must be similar for the AIIB also. One is the project agreement, one is a development agreement, and one is the agreement directly with the beneficiaries. These are the part of your development, the essentiality of the credit. The point is, when you grant certain amount as the credit, you also declare a covenants. These covenants are absolutely mandatory. If you don't agree, the World Bank or any funding agency just doesn't accept at all. Now, most unfortunately, India is a country, we claim to be the largest democratic country, but we have a very, very guarded transparency. What is convenient to the government is known to everybody. What is not convenient to the government for their interest, it is never known unless one goes into the RTI or maybe PIL. I would suggest, if you agree, and if chairman also agrees, as a recommendation of this conference, if you can request the government that these covenants be made open in the public domain, so that the lot of bank scams and all that is happening, which has become a major attraction in India, I think we would know. Now we have a 73 and 74 constitutional amendment. For last 10 years, I have worked on several projects. This amendment is also some sort of a mandatory regulatory actions which the beneficiary has to comply with. I have yet to see a single urban local body in the country where they have complied with the mandatory regulatory actions which they have agreed to. If you look at the 73 and 74th Constitutional Amendment, there are wonderfully drafted covenants, which are like they call it covenant. This is not known. Lot of things which the World Bank or you insist that it should be done, it is already provided in the, but it is never known. So I would request if the covenants are declared open in the public domain, we as the beneficiary, we as the citizen of this country, we as a voter of this country and the taxpayer would know for certain where government has failed, where the beneficiary has failed, where the state has failed, whether the money has been channelized for some other purpose, we would know it. Now, during the project completion report, PCR, which is a diagnostic analysis, on all the three aspects, we did the analysis, we found that the beneficiaries are prepared to accept to the conditions which they are prepared to pay for it, but they certainly say the services. Yesterday we talked on that, the delivery of services. Now, unfortunately, if this is known to us, certainly we can press upon the government as the citizen that why this has not been done when you have already agreed. I think these are the things which is very, very essential. Now, coming to your Yes Bank, we had a client from the Yes Bank who applied for a loan for the solid waste management, and that was a boom, you know, from 2005 to almost about 2015, it was a boom. Huge money was available. It was almost about 100% grant in aid. A project came to us for the technical feasibility. We put down certain conditions that unless if these conditions are complied, the bank should not finance the project. In spite of that, all of us know the pressures on the bank. The bank financed the project, and today the project is in complete doldrum. So why doesn't the bank also insist? I mean, you may have the pressures. Like the World Bank and AIIB doesn't have the pressure, but you have the pressures. But you have to follow the covenants. You have to follow the conditions. Why are you not so strict? Why talk of the only theoretical aspects of regulation? And that we know. Nobody needs to tell us what is the regulation, how it has to be monitored. You as the funding agency, you have to monitor. And we as the taxpayer of this country must know for certain why it was not monitored. Where is the money going? Where are the benefits? So that is my suggestion. And my second suggestion to Chandranath, I happened to discuss also with the finance minister on the economic feasibility of a project. We had a project which was a lift irrigation project. We also had a project for that hilly tribal area for the water supply project. You know, under the ARWS previously or MNS, it was 100% granted aid for the water supply project. Just by the side of that was the irrigation fields. The water was being pumped from the river high up in the hill, going to the same area. There was a water tank, there was a pump. And I said, when you are asking 100% grant in aid, you are giving the 100% grant for water supply, hilly area, tribal area, why are you asking for 10% of the margin money from the foreigners? So that is, and again the maintenance. There the maintenance cost is also somewhere it is matched. So why there is a disparity between the agricultural project and the water supply project? So this needs to be very, very serious. In fact, the finance minister agreed that we will issue the instruction to NABARD, but the government toppled. I had submitted a policy paper to the government of India that you cannot distinguish when the beneficiary is at one point. So you cannot say the water is meant for drinking, water is meant for agriculture. The purpose is the same. If one is 100% granted, secondly also has to be given some sort of a consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Madam Vikas as well as Madam Jangmin both would like to answer your question.
I just
And with
wanted
regard to your recommendation which you suggested for us, we'll take it up.
So I just wanted to, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, we do not have any NPA on any solid waste project. If we financed it, it would have an NPA. But I think what is very important. No, but what I would like to here say is that we have, right since 2009, in fact, we are in the 15th year of our operations, being the 4th largest private sector bank in India. We have a very strong ESG framework, so environment, social governance framework that is followed at the bank, and we are one of the banks which follows it, where we have refused loans to those borrowers who don't fit into the ESG framework. There are loans which are given where we also work with companies to bring them up the curve. And given this very strong ESG practice, the Ministry of Finance has appointed Yes Bank as the national implementing entity for the GCF, and we are the only private sector bank, and in the history of India, no private sector bank has got a mandate like that for a sovereign fund, and we've been appointed, and this is purely basis the ESG framework. So we can always offline discuss this, but I thought it was very important to mention this, that we follow a very, very strong ESG framework when we look at not just financial risks, but also ESG risks.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I just maybe mentioned about this covenant things. In fact, for most of ADB projects, we have two agreements. First is a project agreement. The second is a loan agreement. The project agreement will declare the project scope, agreed, and also the beneficiaries, their funding allocation, how much the fund would go to the civil works, how much would go to the equipment, all this, the allocation. And then second is a loan agreement. And then in this loan agreement, the covenant side, covenant things from the government is put there, included there. And both agreements are open to public after the loan is effective. Because we are one of the multi-donors, MDBs, we must follow this open, information to public policy. So all our loans, all the agreement are open to public. You can get any agreement in ADB website. As long as you know the project name, you search the project in this project and data, and then you can find that the loan agreement, project agreement are all there. And then, in fact, as you said, in fact, the covenant is a very important part. Every time we negotiate with the government on a particular project, we need really to see what's the conditions we must have for this project, long-term sustainability. In my previous project, many times for water, we always put the tariff, as one of the covenant. But the thing is, finally, when it finally turned out, many governments cannot keep their promise to get water tariff increased to a certain level. So it also brings a lot of trouble to us, because when we do the project completion report, the compliance of the covenant is one of the criteria to see if this project is successful. So in fact, many water projects are not so successful because the government couldn't increase the water tariff. So now we are very cautious what we should put in the covenant. If we don't put the tariff thing, government will not do anything. If we put a very strict one, it's also like we put a rope in our own neck. Because if you see ADB projects with India, the project successful rate is only about 60 to 70%. So in fact, it's really, it's like, the situation, you really need to balance it. How to make some proper covenant to push the government to do a bit more, but also something you need to make sure the project is really sustainable. But anyway, it's open to public, and then we are happy to follow your suggestion to consider more, widely of this covenant, to push a little bit more, on each side. Thank you very much.
Would you like to also? Okay.
Very quickly, I think on that disclosure thing, in fact, World Bank has a disclosure policy for every project. There is something called implementation status and results report that is prepared and it is put into public domain. In that report, all the covenants of the project as well as results, what were the results that were agreed, and then what is the performance as on the date when we go and review. All that has been, is disclosed. You are open to see for any project anywhere in the world, you can see the status report, updated status report, okay? Then second thing, you mentioned that World Bank doesn't have pressure. In fact, we also have pressure as well as ADB. The point is we are accountable to our board of directors who are actually the, I would say the owners of the bank, and we are supposed to respond to them and prepare updates on every project, as you said, completion report. Similar to ADB, we also evaluate every project and rate that whether it is satisfactory, moderately satisfactory, or unsatisfactory. You know, we are supposed to keep the unsatisfactory performance at the minimum. You know, that is our responsibility. We have to do that.
Good morning.
Not only the covenant, all the safeguard reports, social resettlement, environment monitoring report are all online. You please feel free to read them and give comments.
One way I appreciate the World Bank, ADB, and the new entrant in the fray, the AIIB and Yes Bank, for the financing the water sector project. The main concern, what we look in the mainly, like Yes Bank has said, the recently initiative HAM project, which is very successfully done in the national highway as well as in the state highway. The HAM projects, the hybrid annuity model will be, yes, if the government declares as a policy and give it a mandate to the state government as well as urban local body, which is the nodal authority because of Amendment 74, they only can take a decision, not the state government, not the central government. So HAM projects has to be the responsibility, primary responsibility of the municipal corporation. They should give a directive accordingly, number one. Second is the World Bank and ADB demands sovereign guarantee. The look for a credit rating of the municipal corporation, which is not very encouraging in the country. Out of 5,000 plus municipality, you know, the banks, when they go for a bank for the finance or the project finance, they simply turn down because their credit rating is not poor. The ADB and World Bank, they do discourage because unless the federal system, the government is same, and they push the municipal corporation to state government to central government, and state government and central government together give a sovereign guarantee, then only ADB and World Bank funding will come for the project. When it comes to sustainability of a municipal level, it is a private sector bank. They should, the Government of India, Ministry of Finance should give a directive that it is a priority sector lending, and you have to give lending to the municipal sector, irrespective of their risk and irrespective of, because there is a government responsibility to fulfill the need of the water. It is a social responsibility rather looking for a bankable ROI, return of investment, rather these aspect which is the business prospect which bank look for. But as a responsibility, the Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Water should give directives that even if the bank is not finding project lucrative, we will give a subvention of the interest or component or waive off, like it is waived off in terms of the agriculture. They should do it for the larger public interest for drinking water and sanitation also. This is my suggestion. Thank you.
You have a question? Yes.
Yeah, good morning all. Myself Syam Sundar Langote. I worked as a consultant to Asian Development Bank through Tata Consulting Engineers. My question is to Mr. Raghav Neti. Actually, you mentioned about the progress-based lending or financing in project in Maharashtra. So similar system was in ADB. They call it as a result-based lending. So actually, my question is like, when you financing for the progress-based projects, so what are the major indicators or the outcomes you look for, and how those are measured or monitored actually for like in the water and sanitation sector? Thank you.
Hello. It is called as program for results, basically. It depends on the status of the sector and the status evolution of the sector in a particular state. What kind of results that we set For example, in the case of Maharashtra, what we said was that one of the points that we discussed in the morning was monitoring of the services, right? So money is coming from various sources. Central government gives some money, state government provides some money, and we, multilateral financing agencies, we provide some money, right? The objective of the sector doesn't depend on who is giving money. The objective of the sector is to improve services and sustain them. Sustainable development goals, you have seen what I have presented. Sustainability is very important. Equity, inclusion, all these are important. What is happening currently is that these elements are not being monitored. What is monitored is how much funding has gone, how many schemes have been implemented, when is it completed, etc. Expenditure, purely. Mostly, in some cases, probably on the basis of measuring the bulk water supply, they say, I provided X amount of water to this city. It doesn't help to really understand what's happening really in the sector, whether all people are being served or not, whether it is sustainable or not. So, and an example to be able to understand, I give you one result that we have set in this case. That is monitoring and evaluation for the whole of the sector. Let's say if the secretary wants to make a policy, what does he want? There was a proper consultation done with various stakeholders, and then certain high-level indicators were set in that monitoring and evaluation system. Okay. Then at the district level, if a district magistrate wants to make things happen, what does he want to know? Whether he has team in place, whether the team has been skilled, what are they doing, what are the annual plans that they are setting, long-term annual plans, not a yearly annual plan. These are the kinds of results that will be monitored in the monitoring and evaluation system. Our project will see whether that system has been set up, whether it is functioning, whether it is being used for policy making. That is one result. Okay. The second result, we spoke about service delivery. In the morning we spoke, pipe connection is given. We will never monitor. The states are not monitoring whether water is going or not. One of the result is whether pipe connections are given, how many people are receiving that connection, whether water is flowing all through the day. We said at none of the times more than 60 days the service shall not be obstructed. That is one result, right? It is also measured pressure. In the morning you mentioned pressure, quality of water, etc. All these are monitored. Okay, it will be monitored through a separate consulting agency. E&Y has been working for that. They will do the monitoring. They give a report to the government, and then we review that. If we are satisfied, then only we release the money.
PCR is also one of the outcomes. It reflects a lot of things about the performance.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have any other question?
Yeah.
Yes. We'll take two more questions. One is behind and lady. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'll speak as an outsider because I'm only 1 week old in this sector.
Okay.
All my life I have been teaching language and literature. Inspired by Dr. Pathak, I have joined this sector. First, I'll pay my tribute to Dr. Pathak. There is a couplet in Urdu, हजारों साल नरगिस अपनी बेनूरी पे रोती है, बड़ी मुद्दत पे होता है चमन में दीदावर पैदा. And I found that didawar in Dr. Pathak. That's why I joined him. I'm thankful to all of you because it has been a very good learning experience for me, listening to bureaucrats, technocrats, some academicians. But you know, it's an irony that in a country where from the days of the Vedas we have been chanting Vanaspataya Shanti, Prithvi Shanti. And in the 21st century, after thousands and thousands of years, we have come to a point of no return.
Could you please ask the question, sir?
Yes.
Because we have, we are short of time, so kindly. Yeah.
In Chandogya Upanishad, the opening lines are, the essence of everything is earth. The essence of earth is water. The essence of water is plants. And the essence of plants is man, etc. We talked about water, we didn't talk about plants. There will be no water unless there are plants. And last thing, there is a 2-line poem. The man said to the earth, I exist. The earth replied, that is no obligation to me. So we are not obliging the earth, it is for our own existence. Make action plans so that something can be done on a short-term basis and something can be done on a long-term basis. Otherwise, such seminars and conferences would continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you have come out with very noble thoughts. Certainly we value them and we will cherish them. Try to implement them to the best possible extent. Madam. Yes.
Yeah. Sir, I'm Aditi. I had a question. When we talk about democracy, does it subsidize the importance of governance system, one? And what could be, the more innovative self-governance forms which could be utilized in the democratic scenario, where we understand what are we really doing? Is it the right thing? Is it happening in the right manner? So I would like, it could be an open question, and people can tell us, what could be a better self-governance form in the democratic country?
Would you like to answer this, Mr. Chandrakan? I don't know whether I can answer to your full satisfaction, but I just thought I can convert that component to a sort of suggestion to 3 bankers. We say that water is important, like women are important, we say, but in the men don't do work at home. They just say that. Like that we say water is very important as slogans. Irrigation water is not piped. See, we have so many irrigation reservoirs and dams. Why not the 3 banks think of supplying the water to irrigators through pipes, through big pipes, and then save that water and give it to drinking purpose. And we'll have all the problems of governance, we'll have all the problems of tribunals. Crores of rupees are spent on arguing in courts, Narmada, Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari, tribunals, and we can solve the problem. I don't know why none of the banks have thought of, supplying the irrigation water through big pipes and save 70% of the seepage losses as well as evapotranspiration losses. Thank you.
Yes. Last question.
Good morning, and I'm Rishikesh here. Since a long time, we have been arguing about water recharge and also water conservation. So I just want to know, stormwater is one of the most neglected area in the water sector, and there is no sustainable financing model, I think, so far. I have come across, maybe you have already done somewhere in the world. So could you please share, maybe this question is to MDBs, like both the ADB as well as World Bank. So the sustainable stormwater models are not there in our country, because both urban water and rural watershed can improve the water conservation measure, apart from the so-called rainwater harvesting, which is not successful much. But the urban watershed conservation can be a major game change in water conservation, along with the urban and rural landscaping issues. So any sustainable financing model for that?
Any of you would like to comment on that?
This is a good idea. In fact, I spoke about water scarcity. There is a need to catch this stormwater and then probably do something for recharging of the groundwater. We have a project in Tamil Nadu wherein stormwater drainage has been supported through our program. That is also used for recharging of the groundwater wherever possible. But the main problem what we are facing is in the urban areas, availability of the land. If it is available for the existing stormwater systems, let's say natural canals, the water is polluted. The stormwater, the sewerage, and the sanitation, and the solid waste, all these are interlinked. You can't just recharge the groundwater with a polluted water. So we need to fix multiple dimensions, and then only this is possible. So we are trying that. There are a number of technologies that are available. In fact, our project will promote sustainability through that mechanism as well.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah. Thank you. For this stormwater management or rainwater harvest, ADB is doing it basically through a slightly different way, because ADB's water policy is water for all. That means that water is not only for human beings, but also for plants, for animals, for their natural needed. So basically, water, we can put it as urban water, rural water, including the irrigation, and also the basin water for the environmental need. And then in urban area, as Mr. Netty said, the land is an issue. And also more important, in the urban area, the storm water would always bring another disaster, that's flooding. So it's better to manage the flooding together with the storm water. So in this way, there are some like very basic technical guidance. For example, in urban area, you can do this lower green area. So during the raining season, the water would come to this green area. It would become to recharge the groundwater automatically. So it's all these small things to really change your normal, activities to harvest the rainwater. And then for rural area, there will be some specific rainwater harvest things. For example, in Madhya Pradesh Urban Service Project, if this city or town, mainly the population is less than 5,000, if they use the groundwater as a water resource, in the project, they would build some water harvest basins to really get more rainwater to recharge the groundwater, so to maintain the groundwater as their sustainable water resource. Thank you.
Well, I'm not an expert in the field, but watching on television, I see the voluntary efforts of Pani Foundation of Amir Khan, or previously of Anna Hazare at Raliganj Siddhi, or Nama Foundation of Nana Patekar. I think all these are towards conservation of storm water. And I think similar efforts are going all around the country. Mr. Rajendra Singh in Rajasthan and elsewhere. Perhaps it could be augmenting water supply through conservation of rainstorm water. Well, we've had a very rich and a very prolonged discussion. I hope you have all benefited immensely from this. Number of very important suggestions have come up. My colleagues in the RIS they have taken the notes. We will try to come up with a report which will include some of these suggestions, recommendations. And I'm sure, I think discussions, consultations of this kind in cities away from Delhi will go a long way in encouraging this kind of free and frank dialogue and getting your valuable suggestions in this regard. So may I now request you all to join me in thanking and acclaiming our panelists for very useful presentations. Thank you. Continue? Okay, all right. Well, I have been asked by the organizers that we have to unfortunately forego the tea break. Those who wish to have tea, they can go and have. Huh?
Ladies and gentlemen, I request you all to be seated now. We are proceeding towards the last session for today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our valedictory session. Our conference is drawing to a close. I have with me Mr. Sabyasachi Saha, my colleague from the RIS. He has prepared a brief report of the proceedings of our discussion since yesterday. So I will ask him to read it out to all of you.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks, sir, for this opportunity. This conference on the theme Water and Sanitation is the 7th in the series of the lead-up events prior to the AIIB annual meeting in Mumbai to be hosted by India on 25th and 26th June. The AIIB, as you have gathered by now, is a new multilateral development bank with more than 80 member countries headquartered in Beijing. India is the second largest shareholder after China and is keen to leverage this platform to provide leadership, ideas, and proposals on future infrastructure for an Asian century, and also leverage the portfolio of the AIIB to finance its selected infrastructure initiatives. At RIS, we are privileged to associate with the Ministry of Finance as their knowledge partner for the 3rd annual meeting of the AIIB and the lead-up events. We are grateful to our industry partners in this journey, and today I am particularly thankful to FICCI for their support. I acknowledge the dynamic leadership and meticulous guidance of our Director General, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, and kind support of our mentors, Ambassador Devare, Dr. Sheshadri Chari, and Professor Amitabh Kundu, whom you have heard since yesterday. To place things in context, we have witnessed great transformations in the sphere of infrastructure development in India in the last 4 years under the vision and leadership of the Prime Minister and some of his able ministerial colleagues. This does not only suggest that key areas of infrastructure have been prioritized and expedited tremendously, but also throws variety of lessons on good governance in the area of infrastructure development. This includes novel PPP designs, new models of financing, systemic monitoring, innovation-driven infrastructure, and institutional and regulatory reforms. Globally, investment needs across infrastructure sectors, particularly in the emerging and developing countries, are huge. Multilateral development banks are a key source of additional finance. However, neither governments nor the MDBs can cover this gap alone. The new way forward has been suggested in terms of collaborations among concessional financing, institutionalized financing agencies, innovative financing mechanism. We discussed a couple of them today: local bonds, local currency financing, credit enhancement, blended finance, and leveraging private capital. However, commercial banks, as it was proposed by some, has certain constraints in forwarding funds to the infrastructure sector, as they are tied with the Basel norms. And quite interestingly, this issue came up in the NDB annual meeting, which I attended earlier this week. And similar discussions took place in terms of allowing commercial banks a greater space to lend finance to the infrastructure sector. Also, emergence of new technologies have made planning and allocation even more challenging. Coverage of conventional and new infrastructure that have definite positive benefits in terms of quality. The forthcoming AIIB annual meeting is slated to explore such issues. To place the issues in context, I recount the flagship initiatives of the Government of India, like Smart Cities, Bharatmala, Sagarmala, Digital India, and above all, Swachh Bharat Mission. In the lead-up events, we have covered each of these initiatives and associated action and areas of concern. In the conference on digital infrastructure, which was held last month in Bangalore, it was referred that digital infrastructure is going to be the infrastructure for the infrastructure. However, after listening to the rich deliberations since yesterday, I can definitely say that water and sanitation is in fact the mother of all infrastructure and anchors sustainability of the environment and the society in all possible ways. This was wisely alluded to in the context of an age-old Indian saying, Jal hi Jeevan hai, and today similar references were made in the last session. Two of the SDGs, SDG 6 totally and SDG 12 in spirit, have been directly devoted to issues and concerns of water and sanitation. The background paper prepared by Mr. Parmeshwar Iyer, the Secretary, Department of Drinking Water, brilliantly captures this and reiterates the highest political commitment from India towards the SDGs in general, as well as SDG 6 in particular. Based on the stupendously rich conversations since yesterday, I divide my conclusions into three broad areas. The detailed conference report will be prepared in due course. First, the current status of investments and progress, key outcomes and recommendations for policy action and institutional reforms, and other highlights of the proceedings. Issues and rationale. Since the inception of the National Rural Drinking Water Program in 2011, the coverage of habitations with over 40 LPCD rural water supply has increased to 78%, in line with supplying all habitations with sustainable and sufficient drinking water by 2030 as part of the SDGs. Of these, 57% of the population is also covered by piped water supply through public stand posts. However, drinking water supply is alarmingly dependent on groundwater resources, to the extent that India has the highest consumption of groundwater. This leads us to issues of water quality across the country, and this has been discussed at length. The NRDWP provides grants for construction of rural water supply schemes with special focus on water-stressed and water quality affected areas, rainwater harvesting, and groundwater recharge measures, and for operation and maintenance, including minor repairs. On March 22, 2018, on the World Water Day, the Government of India launched Swajal, a community-led drinking water project aimed at providing sustainable and adequate drinking water in an integrated manner to the rural masses. The last few years have seen a noticeable rise in the investments made on drinking water through the NRDWP, with a total of rupees 17,184 crore invested in the last 3 years alone. Encouragingly, states have been investing their own funds as well. Notable examples are Gujarat, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Telangana. In the context of Telangana, Mission Bhagiratha was mentioned by the Secretary, which has been a truly ambitious program. On the 2nd of October 2014, the rural sanitation coverage stood at approximately 39%, while as of May 2018, it has increased to over 83% under the Swachh Bharat mission. However, the states that need significant improvement include Odisha, Bihar, Puducherry, and Uttar Pradesh. The number of total household toilets built since 2nd October 2014 is 7,30,70,830. 3,70,243 ODF villages have been declared ODF, 387 ODF districts, and 17 ODF states and UTs. The 14th Finance Commission has emphasized delivery of basic services such as water and sanitation in the utilization of basic to the extent of 90% and performance 10% grants provided to Gram Panchayats. Local funds are being used for CapEx and OpEx of water supply schemes, rainwater harvesting, water treatment, retrofitting, etc. The Government of India has set up an arrangement of pool funds called the Swachh Bharat Kosh in order to enable companies to contribute towards the program. The funds collected is in the tune of rupees 1,000 crores since October 2014. Government is taking robust measures towards piped water supply to all households by 2030, improve water quality, focus on surface water vis-a-vis groundwater, decentralized irrigation and sanitation systems, It is also focusing on community-led initiatives and traditional approaches on waste management like the Govardhan initiatives. Now I come to the key outcomes and the policy recommendations. The first thing that was discussed yesterday as well as today was the issue of user charges for water and water tariff. As we all know, this has been a contentious subject throughout. It has been argued that people are ready to pay for quality services, and due to water scarcity and water quality issues, people are in any case paying coping charges. Poor do not benefit from the low user charges. They end up paying much more to vendors. So operational cost recovery is a feasible objective. The modalities of this are being worked out. It was suggested that non-revenue water supply in cities have to be significantly reduced. Today, issues of tariff for irrigation water also came up. There is a big scope of disciplining water use in irrigation. On institutional provisions, water is a state subject in India, which comes in the way of comprehensive national planning and program in this sector. It was suggested that a fresh look on this subject may be necessary to effectively address issues of watershed management and regulation. Third, watershed management and water intensity of agriculture. It was pointed out that river linking initiatives are misnomer, but the correct approach should be linking of water basins and source of surface water for sustainable water management. It was highlighted that due to poor understanding and planning, several water-scarce states end up having water-intensive cropping patterns. Case in point is Punjab. On the other hand, as an encouraging example, it was highlighted that Chhattisgarh discourages rice production during Rabi season and subsidizes wheat production. Water budgeting, water meters, alternative irrigation like drip irrigation was suggested to be more attractive than suggesting farmers to change their cropping patterns. So this is an evolving area where policymakers need to engage more. Finally, private sector participation. Interventions in these sectors and utilities in most cases are publicly funded. However, given the nature of challenges, the private sector can be a source of innovation and solutions. It is generally perceived that it is difficult for the private sector to invest in water and sanitation globally. The range of issues includes tendering process, sustainable revenue issues, tariff risk, and lack of focus of water quality beyond mundane flow and supply issues. The successful cases of PPP models in water supply from Manila and Nagpur were discussed in detail. In Nagpur, sewage water is being recycled for non-potable use in the industry. It was suggested that the design, build, and operate DBO contracts have to be effective. Right incentives for recycling and waste segregation have to be provided to tackle the challenges of landfill. Decentralized solutions and use of technology for water supply and sanitation have been strongly advocated. Today, it also came up, the mixing and matching of policies like tax, tariff, and budget transfer, and how tariffs could be the most sustainable and efficient way of encouraging the private sector to participate in this sector. I conclude by placing some of the other highlights of the proceedings that we have heard since yesterday. In terms of better management of water, water footprint assessment of the private industry could be adopted. Moreover, significant R&D is required in areas like scenario building software to inform policymakers and citizens of the implications of different patterns of water use. This would improve the response from both. Urban areas mostly source water from water basins located at a distance. This has cost implications. In order to keep these basins recharged and free from contamination, interventions in terms of industrial waste management and reduction of fertilizer use have to be adopted. This has social and political implications. Conservation of water is equally important for ecological balance and protection of species. Water wastage through modern but perceivably misguided household purification devices and bottled water supply needs fresh examination and mitigation. It was highlighted that 498 Class 1 cities in India had treatment plants with average of only 32% of treatment, and 25 Class 2 cities have treatment plants with a further poor average of 8% of treatment of total waste generated. To improve the situation, decentralized solid waste and septage management may be promoted. However, regulation would be very important for any form of decentralized approach. There has been a call to reduce food waste, plastic usage, and general reduction of waste through public awareness. We also heard about the nexus between water, energy, and food this morning. Use of bio-toilets by the Indian Railways is a best practice and a success story from India in terms of timelines as well as coverage. Such decentralized waste management technologies can be adopted by urban housing societies as well. There is need to improve spatial data generation by use of technologies for effective planning and monitoring of water and sanitation. Finally, several new financing options, cost recovery, cost sharing, and regulatory issues have been discussed this morning. Cost effectiveness, transparency, predictability, design, capacity building, monitoring, accountability, project and impact evaluation, coordination, governance, as well as social conditions all contribute to a sustainable infrastructure development in other sectors and most prominently in water and sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saha. I must say, in a very short time, you have indeed produced a very comprehensive report. I really compliment you for this. The distinguished speaker for our valedictory address is today Dr. Bindeshwar Pathak, founder of the Sulabh International Social Services Organization. Dr. Pathak ji needs no introduction. He is a legend, and we could not have been luckier to have him this afternoon to address us at our valedictory. I think for more than 50 years, I was told his organization was first started in 1968. That is exactly 50 years ago. For 50 years ago, he has been engaged relentlessly, selflessly in a work which has only now been well recognized. I think long before Government of India started the Swachh Bharat mission, Pathak ji has been working on this mission for a very long time. So I think today, when we are having this meeting discussing water and sanitation, they could not have been more apt person to speak to us. And with that, may I request Pathak ji to kindly address us.
Honorable His Excellency Ambassador S.T. Devare ji, Chairman, Research Advisory Council, Research and Information System for Developing Countries, Dr. Sabyasachi Sahaji, Assistant Professor, Mr. Deepak Mukhi, Head FICCI Master Chapter, Honorable Sri A.K. Tiwari ji, friends from Sulabh, distinguished participants. I feel proud and privileged that I have been asked to give valedictory address on this occasion of a seminar on water and sanitation organized by AIIB, Ministry of Finance, FICCI. Before I speak about what are my experiences in the last 50 years, I'm thankful to AIIB for giving this opportunity. For organizing this important meeting and providing me the opportunity to share my views. I am hopeful that AIIB would have enough materials for the forthcoming high-level meeting of AIIB, Asian Industrial Development Bank, in June 2018. Yesterday was an absorbing day with a lot of excellent presentations. Highlight of the inaugural session was views of Professor Amitabh Kundu, Dr. Pratap from Ministry of Finance, and the crisp presentation of Sri Permission Ayerji, his Secretary, Shooting Water Sanitation, about whom yesterday I told you, the Prime Minister appreciated his efforts in Champaran recently. It seldom happens. And he explained lucidly the progress made on Swachh Bharat Mission. You may likely to recall what he spoke. Water management and also drinking water emphasized the need to ensure and manage water. On sanitation, water management, chaired by the Joint Secretary, Mr. Arun Barokaji. These were excellent presentations. All of us enjoyed views of Professor Sharad Kale, distinguished scientist who spoke in his own style, and he made people smile and laugh on this serious subject in a simple way. Other speakers from Mr. Tiwari from Railways, Silter Suits and Executive Excel Industries provided useful insights. Excel is the only company who has done something about the best management. I also provided an overview on the subject of water and sanitation from first 5 plan till Swachh Bharat Mission. Now I'm going to tell you what I have experienced in the last 50 years. This is my personal views, so you may agree, you may not agree, but this is my personal views of the last 50 years. What is important, that first you have to decide about technology, because 2.3 billion people have no access to safe and hygienic toilets in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So that way, sewerage is not possible. This is outright, we can say that by sewer system, you are not going to solve the problem of sanitation in these continents. So what are the technologies now? The septic tank and Sulabh, it is like same. Only thing that in cold country, you have to join the 3 compartments or 5 compartments, only to decompose human excreta in the water, presence of water. And in tropical climate, Just remove that and have 2 soak pits. So there will be nothing but 2 soak pits of a septic tank. So septic tank is required only in the cold countries, where the human excreta cannot be converted by the soil because of very cold climate. So the human excreta has to go inside the water, and the bacteria formed in the water decomposes human excreta, and it is treated like this. But it should go to soak pits. There's a problem in India. That now they don't provide soak pits, just construct septic tank and connect with drainage, any drainage anywhere. That is very dangerous in this country, but it's still going on. So septic tank study I told you, the scavenging has been banned. So if we have septic tanks, who will clean it? The cesspit impetiers are not in large numbers, and everywhere it cannot go because of the small, very lanes and balance. So I had to find out the technology. I won't go in detail about it because you must have my papers, you can go through there. Just I say that I invented the technology of 2 pits. ये चलाना है कहीं पर? भाई आप चलाइए. ये तो ओपनिफिकेशन है, स्कैवेंजिंग कैसे करता है ये है. Go ahead. हाँ. Just see, I had cleaned toilets myself in our town for 2 days as a scavengers. Nobody in the world has done this so far. I'm planning a feature film, and maybe the actors have to do it like that. But this is personally I cleaned mosquito myself, just to know the experience, the pain of how they face all these things. Now, study perhaps did not show that. So this is a 2-pit toilet. You will see in the presentation also. So this is 2-pit toilet. One is at a time, others kept standby. And after 2 years, and when the second is full, you can take out as a manure, as a fertilizer. This is just a human excreta in my hand, in a different form. I smell for you, there is no smell. So this technology I invented in 68, 69, and this technology has a prime mover. It has made difference in the lives of the people and also the untouchables. Had not I invented this technology, there is no chance of ending the practice of open defecation or manually cleaning of mosquito. अब बताइए आगे चलाइए इसको. Yesterday I have already talked about this. I leave it because by this it's not possible, because you have 7,935 towns and cities, 4,041 recognized by the government, and out of that only 498 and 225. Only these towns have sewage treatment plants, and that too partially. In Delhi treats only 69%. Rest goes to Jamuna. So 32% is the average treatment in the class 1 cities, and class 2, 8%. Rest where it goes? It goes, they all discharge everybody. So by this technology is not possible. Go ahead. This is your system. In India it was reduced in 1870. Go ahead. This is, go ahead. So these are the 2 pits. One is at a time, other is kept standby. आपको चलाने वाला है कुछ नहीं दिखाने वाला? कहाँ पर है? इसी में है. So कैसे डालेंगे ये वाला कहाँ दिखाएंगे ऐसे बीच वाला ना चलिए छोड़िए, leave it. So ये आगे कौन चलता है? ये चलता है, ये. Now you see, we have designed such a way that these can be constructed in the smallest place available. Even the wall, dividing wall, we have constructed the toilet. It is kept open just to see. It is even covered. And just see if this space is very not available for having platform in the front, you can have in this also. So lane by lanes you can have toilets also. So toilets can be constructed, even on 2,000 or 3,000. But the only precaution is that beneficiaries should collect the materials, and masons should build. No agency should come in between. Only agency can come only to help. And these are the different designs. But this is for the, I put in my hand, that is for the rich person. That costs more. So we have designed such a way that poorest of the poor and even the rich people can enjoy the facilities. Technologies are the same, building materials differ, and a period of cleaning. The minimum period is cleaning of 3 years, and maximum is 40 years. So each person can have a toilet that can be cleaned after 40 years. But those who want to use the fertilizer, they should clean after 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. This, you see, we have kept the roof not open. For those who say, oh, we go outside and like to defecate in the open. So we say, okay, go inside the toilet, I keep roof open for you. You can enjoy the sun and rain, no problem. हिंदी में गाना था, जिया बेकरार है, छाई बहार है, आजा मेरे बालमा तेरा इंतजार है. तो आप कर सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. So what is required is that we have to satisfy all the clienteles. If you give one design, that will not work. So you show 20 designs to a client and let the client choose. And accordingly, it can serve. So if you want to defecate, free India from open defecation, you give all designs, but who will do it? That is most important. I will discuss later on. And this water is required only 1 liter to flush or 1.5 liter to flush. So people always say about the scarcity of water. So this is minimum water required, and Hindus and Muslims around the world, they take water for ablution. And now by tropical medicine of London, it has been researched that washing by water is more hygienic than paper. So if you ask cultural practices, open defecation, but ask the Europeans, can you clean by water? They say no. So culture takes time to change. This is very important. And fertilizer I have shown already. It has nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. If you add some lime, it is better to have good fertilizer. Now just see, this is the slab over the pit. And she's cooking food, she's shuffling grains, she's cutting fish, he has a shop on the shop. So what we do, we make a slab 3 inch. And the moment you make 3 inch, then it can retain, even the jeep you can put there, it will not break. If you have a buffalo on the tank, it will not break. So what we say, that you design accordingly the requirement of the client. And that requires some knowledge, basic knowledge. Now just the 2 pits, you see the toilets we built here. We have built 1.5 million toilets in the houses, both in urban and rural. Yesterday somebody was telling that it will not work in the urban areas. I did not reply at the time. I started from urban. And we got converted all the bucket toilets cleaned by untouchables into a flush toilet. And then we gave to rural areas. So 1.5 million toilets we have built. You ask any name, we can supply the name, the place, you can go and see how they are functioning. So the quality construction is there. It will last for 100 years minimum. Sometimes question comes here, on the upper floor of the house, you can have the toilet and connect with the pipe. And if the water table is high, just see the picture, that is the water, stagnant water there, and this is the toilet. So the principle is, water takes its own level. So if the water is there, you just raise your upper portion of the pit 2 feet above the water table, it will work very well. So when the water table high, toilets can work. We are holding towards Jammu, he is a Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh. And just see that this toilet in the same house, in the upper floor of the house and the ground. There are 2 toilets in the ground, and there are 2 pits here, and this is the first floor. And just see, the homeless skata in the first pit itself is getting converted. You can see how it functions. There is no smell, nothing like this. These are toilets built in different areas, and I have not found any household not using toilet. If you build a good toilet, they will use that. If the quality is not good, then what can be done? Hema Malini once came to our function, and she said, in my constituency, all toilets were broken and people are abusing us. I said, Madam, I will build 50 toilets for you on from Sulabh, money from Sulabh. Rest we have to arrange from companies under CSR. So we built the toilets, and now then she said, oh, this is a toilet. I never saw a toilet like this. I said, Madam, there should be quality construction, only then it will last. So what you have seen is different toilet. So these are the houses who have 2-pit system. Always we have 2 pits. So this is important. And this study I told you, perhaps, that China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, India itself, and Cape Town, Durban, Joburg, and now we are starting in Ghana. So these technologies, one I'm going to explain later on, are suitable for all 3 continents. Now the BBC Horizon has declared Sulabh technology as one of the 5 inventions of the world. I mean, you can imagine, this is the 5 inventions of the world. So that you have to popularize. Now the government of India has started popularizing this technology. And this UN Center of Human Settlement, Sulabh technology was recognized as globally best practice in Istanbul, Turkey in 1996. And this is Dubai Award. This award is all made of full gold by Dubai municipality. They are sheikhs up there. So UNDP has recommended use of this toilet in 2003 UNDP Human Rights Report. Now comes the public toilet. In Patna in 1974, Patna Municipal Corporation asked me, I will give you land and amount for the construction, but I will not give you money for the maintenance. So you have to charge from the public and you have to maintain around the clock. So we agreed, but certainly as people started laughing and joking, who will pay for the toilets. In 1878, an act was passed in West Bengal that time to maintain public toilet on paying basis. It could not work. After 96 years, I tried. So 500 people came to use the toilets for the first day. If somebody from Bihar, I just I'm telling you a story, don't mind. That the joke started that people of Bihar, they don't pay bus fare and toilet fare, the rail fare, or their toilet fare. So this was the jokes. See, they don't pay bus fare or rail fare, or they pay toilet fare. Now this is the first toilet I built in 1974. And toilet is just like this. And this is the biggest toilet in Pune itself. 3 hours from here, Pandharpur. You can go and see. It is functioning already. And 2 lakh people are using daily at present. And from next year, 4 lakh people will use daily. So if we say don't go for open defecation, then certainly you will have to make arrangements for that. Just by telling that don't go outside, where will you go? So about 4 lakh people come daily in Vittalbhai for worshipping him. And there, if you don't have toilets, then where will you go? This is required. It's the biggest in the world. No country has this. So the credit goes to Maharashtra government. Just a clap for the Maharashtra government. That Maharashtra government. And this is Pune, Maharashtra, also good. This is again in Maharashtra, the Shirdi. There are 500 public toilets, the toilets are there, a bathroom, then you have, what is it called? Lockers. So we have lockers also, that they keep belongings there. And this is the biogas plant, left side, you see. We get electricity from there. So these are the public toilets. These are kept for children. In children toilets, we don't put doors because there may be a fear of children maybe locked from inside. So बच्चे जो है बैठते हैं आपस में पैखाना भी करते हैं बात भी करते हैं और माँ भी बाहर बैठी रहती है सब वो भी बात करती रहती है तो इधर माँ बात कर रही है इधर बच्चे बात कर रहे हैं तो कोई डर नहीं किसी बच्चों को है इसमें ये तो इनसाइड व्यू है ये तो लेडी है एम्बेसडर इथियोपिया की जयपुर का शौचालय है some toilets were air conditioned. We have built air conditioned toilets. This is in Kabul, Afghanistan. We have built 5 public toilets in Afghanistan, and temperature been down to -30 degrees Celsius, and all plants function very well. It's still functioning from 2007. So this is very important that the cold climate also, it works very well. The Antis ka hai Karnataka mein. Then these are the public toilets. I go hurriedly. This is a biogas plant. You toilet from that side, and here you can burn lamp. Amit Shah is burning lamp, and he's frying papadam. Sri 108, Ravi Shankar ji. He's frying proper. Then Burma, ex-former ambassador of America, he came to visit us. Then Dr. Jitendra Singh. Now here we convert into energy, biogas. And he, former Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur. And said, this is water. So this water has nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You can use it as a fertilizer. If you discharge river bodies, there's no chance of pollution. So already we have technology in India, but this problem with the government of India, that if you want the good things, you can go, no problem, because we are now globally, we are coming together. So we cannot say why you are getting something from somewhere. But if you have in your country yourself, so if you want to Ganga clean, unless you use this technology, farm space plant is totally impossible. So this is the technology you can see. And this is water hyacinth. suppose a cow, one cow and one calf, and you dry and make it powder, put inside the plant, you can get biogas for 8 hours. And this is duckweed. You can clean water by putting duckweed. Nothing is required, no agents, no bacteria. And then you can have fish also. Then we have this by thermophilic bacteria, mesophilic bacteria. We convert waste into fertilizer in 10 days. Now this is school toilets in Hyderabad, so I go hurriedly. So now, these are the companies who work with us. About 106 countries, companies, not countries. Companies are working with us. They provide us funds. So what we do here? They provide funds, they monitor and supervise also. And Sulabh people go house to house, motivate, educate. And then we implement that, build the toilet and give guarantee for 1 year. And something goes wrong, we rectify free of cost. The beneficiary have to pay nothing, and the agency have to pay nothing. And 1 year we go house to house and motivate. Sometimes women leave their clothes out of shyness, so we have to take out and clean them. So this is very important, that there should be a combination of two, one who provides funds, one who implements. So our Chief Minister, Sulabh was founded in 1970 with the inspiration from Chief Minister of Bihar, Darog Prasad Rai. And he said, social programs cannot be implemented by the government or NGO alone. So both should work together. And he, under his advice, I founded Sulabh. Then one IAS officer came and he said, don't take grant. If you take grant, next year, Finance Department will raise many objections. So you take money for the implementation, and unless you misuse the money of somebody, your program will continue. So the first amount we got from AIIB municipality of 500 rupees, and now we do 3 things for revenue generation, and many things we do for philanthropy and charity. So that way we construct toilets in the houses, both in urban and rural, the public toilets, and then we also clean and sweep hospitals and government buildings. So out of that, we do work about 500 crore per annum. And out of that, we get about 75 crore, and 15 crore we spent in charity, philanthropy, on widows and untouchables, schools, training centers, and so on and so forth. We have not taken grant and donation from anywhere so far. That is the limitation. Asian Development Bank once wrote to us, what are the advantages of Sulabh and limitation? So we wrote to AIIB, advantage also, but that I have not taken grant and donation from any of here. That is the limitation of Sulabh. We could have gone far, far ahead, what we have, but we could not go. Now we have drinking water. This is the arsenic area in West Bengal. And we have developed technology where we clean water, and 50 paise per liter it is given. So those are from the banks, the Asian Bank, World Bank, and some other bank was there. They can take note of it, that they can, this is totally commercially viable, not subsidy. So this, we have put up 5 places, and I give example of one place. Now just see, all have been cleared, especially where a lot of people had a disease see the disease they have. Wait for a minute. This is a pond. And here we clean water through alum and then membrane technology, and finally UV filter. And the water is sold 50 paise per liter. So this plant now, earlier was doing 8,000, now they sell 12,000 liters per day. So 6,000 rupees per day it comes, and 180, about 1,80,000 हो गया महीने का. or about 20 lakhs of a year. So in 5 years, total amount of the plant is about 25 lakh rupees is recovered. So this is so this is very important that if you work in the NGO sector or company sector, these programs can give, now this is well. I will, now this is the water. People come and those who can come, they can carry themselves or they pay 2 rupees extra and it is delivered in their houses. So this is Musul Kati, this is Midnapur, West Bengal. Now we have, in Delhi we have ATM water, and Delhi, those from Delhi can come and see 1 rupee per liter. Can you imagine? 1 rupee per liter is not possible water in Delhi. You can get it. The Minister Social Justice is looking, and we have a health center also. Now we have a school in English, it's English medium school, and it's free for the untouchable children. So 60% children are from the human scavengers community and others. And we have a vocational training center in Delhi, and there 200 students pass every day, every year. Not a single boy and girl has come so far from 92 to tell that one has got no employment. The employment is 100% here. And in our school, students and teachers, they have to clean toilets. We do not allow outsiders to come and clean toilets, and this is how Gandhi wanted. So we have fulfilled the dreams of Mahatma Gandhi. And just see, we have been seen the film. So I have worked for 50 years, but people are doing good work, but getting good money from toilets, from pads, from others. So that is good. So we have a sanitary napkin there, and we manufacture, and we just see this is going to destroy also. And the museum of toilets we have in Delhi. Please come and see yourself what are there. This is very important for you, that if you are in a meeting like this or in a traffic jam, you can put some hard objects like pen or pencil anti-clockwise for 2-3 minutes. You can control your call of nature. I have tried myself, you can also do. When you are traffic jam or meeting like this, so just do therapy, very good. But don't do clockwise. This is very important. Now the elephants are being taught to go to toilet in Thailand. So when elephants go to toilet, why not human beings can go to toilet? This is a question for Indians. That now just see how the elephant is defecating in the toilet. Now I have got this scavengers. They have become Brahmins now. This is social problems, and they are cleaning night soil. And we got this, when Rajiv Gandhi was alive, Prime Minister. So we took untouchables to Nathadwar temple. And after I returned, he gave audience to us, was very happy to see us. So now they do different work, papadam making, beauty care, and fashion technology. So many things are doing. And now we have taken them to a temple, go to pond to take a bath, the Ganga, and they go to same family to sell papadam noodles, where they used to go to clean toilets. And now they eat with them. So these are the photographs you can see. So this is Ujjain. So these are some photographs. Actually, we have, now they go to same family to sell papdam, noodles, pickles. And then they have shared tea with them, food with them. This is what Ambedkar wanted. And this is Gandhi's Durban, Gandhi in Durban. This is photograph from Durban. We went to Durban, and Usha and others, they went to. And Mahatma Gandhi's son also came to us. So we took him to, this is a BBC interview. Radha Singh also took food from him. Now they have become Brahmins. Just see the photographs. So now see how this untouchable till 2003. Now he was with the Prime Minister in 2015. And when and Prime Minister cleaning Assi Ghat. And later on we cleaned Assi Ghat, and just see the photographs of Assi Ghat. They went to France also. Now we are working on videos of Vrindavan. We have broken the tradition. The Supreme Court of India asked us through NALSA to help the videos of Vrindavan. We are giving them 2,000 rupees per month for food, medicine, ambulance, everything. And the worst part was that after death, the bodies were chopped and thrown in the river Yamuna. So now with proper cremation, proper cremation is done. And we have asked them, you can celebrate the Babali and Holi also. So that we have done. We've broken the tradition in Vrindavan. And just see. And now they read and write, and they just see how holy. Videos were not allowed to touch colors, but just see how they are playing holy. This is very important. They went to Calcutta also and celebrated the Babali. With the Prime Minister and President. So here what you see, we have broken the tradition and said, no, you have right to enjoy. And these are the videos, just young videos from Kedarnath area. Also we are giving them 2,000 rupees per month. So that way, just see the girl from a video. चल नहीं रहा है क्या? Come. There's some problem here. Oh, अब चल गया. Okay. We have got married one widow and one boy. The boy agreed to marry a widow girl in Uttarakhand. So we rejoiced there. I'm not speaking detail, it will take time, just I'm showing the photographs. And the book of Prime Minister was released by President. Fulfilling Dreams of Gandhi. This is what I got. I am showing Prime Minister the same thing I have shown to you. This is very important. I am the son of Mahatma Gandhi. But Dr. Pathak is the son of his soul. If we are to go to meet Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, he would first greet Dr. Pathak for the noble work that he is doing, and then meet me. Dr. Pathak restored the human rights and dignity to people engaged in the manual cleaning of mosquito, who is declared as head lord. So, grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and we clean Assi Ghat. Just see now what you can see today. Earlier, after 50 years, full of muds. So I showed him once was being done. We have this ambulance, not ambulance, which is for the publicity. Prime Minister of Sweden, Ambassador of America in India. Then these are the visitors, important visitors. And WHO head. These are the called Brahmins now. The question was asked JNU, why Brahmins only? Lalit Kumar was there, he could not answer. I said, you could have told them that you can choose any caste, but you can choose your religion. A Hindu can be a Muslim, or a Christian, or a Buddhist. Why not Hindu can go from lower to upper? So choose your caste. We have started a campaign that you can choose your caste. Why? Don't change the religion, change your caste. And Gandhi said, only one will remain, either Hindu religion or untouchability. Story Gandhi gave. This is the lamp again. Amit Sai, the campus. T.S. Thakur. Now we have seen the advertisement of this Akshay Kumar. So Akshay Kumar went to our campus. I gave him this to smell, the fertilizer. He is smelling. Sula was a pride of wisdom. This lady, she is a princess of Thailand. She came twice to our campus. And whoever comes from Thailand in her knowledge, always she asks, go to Sulab and see the campus. Health Minister wife with other wives. She was the comedian. I want to speak about myself, just see photographs. This I tell you, this Bill de Blasio, mayor of the city of New York, declared 2016 as Dr. Bindus Patrick Day. This is important for me, that no Asian has got this. I'm the ambassador of railways also. Brand ambassador of Indian Railways. I got honorary friendship member of France also. I got with your blessings, we are going to receive this prize, Nikki Asia Prize, on 30th of June, next. So this is for culture and community. So 3 persons are getting, one from China, one from Vietnam, one yourself. These are 3 people. So thank you. If you have any, thank you. Thank you. If you have any question, I would like to answer them.
Ladies and gentlemen, you'll all agree with me. What an inspiring, insightful, and educative address this has been.
That was an amazing presentation, an inspiring presentation. Dr. Pathak, Ambassador Devre, Dr. Saha, distinguished speakers, senior government officials present here, delegates and representatives of media. A very good afternoon, and it's my proud privilege here to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the organizers of AIIB lead events on water and sanitation. First and foremost, our sincere compliments and thanks to Ministry of Finance for coming up with this idea of organizing thematic lead-up seminars across India before the annual meeting of AIIB in Mumbai. As some of these thematic sectors and themes would have become very difficult in the main event, and it would have not been as detailed deliberation as they are currently happening in across all the seminars. So really thanks Ministry of Finance for coming up with this idea. Very big thank you to RIS, who's the knowledge partner of these lead-up events, and the team led by Professor Chaturvedi, Professor Kundu, Ambassador Devre, Dr. Saha, Garima, who have all been putting, best of the minds together for all these programs from public sector, private sector, social sector. So thanks a lot to them as well. Our heartfelt gratitude to all the panelists for sparing their valuable time, who have come from across India, from overseas, and sharing their experience in their respective field of expertise. So thank you all of you to be here and share your experiences with us. Also, sincere thanks to people who are attending today's conference here, including representatives of media, for gracing this occasion, because we started with a very low number of expected participants, but thanks to you, it has been a great success and a large number of participation. So big thank you to all of you. And lastly, I would fail to perform my duty if I don't recognize my team here from FICCI, from Delhi office, from Mumbai office, Maratha chambers, from Pune. They all have worked hard in last couple of weeks to put together this program. And thank you all of you for doing this and making this program a big success. As everyone has informed you, these are the lead-up events, and this one was the 7th. The last one will take place in Mumbai on 11th of June at Taj Mahal Palace, where the theme of the program is private sector participation and innovation in resource mobilization. We have really put together a very excellent a set of panelist speakers in Mumbai as well. So I welcome all of you to participate in that seminar as well. My colleagues can help you with the registration. And those of you I heard who would want to attend the main event, annual meeting where there are other programs happening, can visit the AIIB.org website, where you can seek interest for participation. The registration are, I believe, open till 10th of June. So not much of a time left, but still this would be a very big program. So once again, thank you all of you for being here with us, and big thanks, round of applause for Dr. Pathak also for gracing this occasion, and we hope to see you in our future programs as well.